brutalized and killed. It is only the 20th of January and we have 2 transgender sisters already killed and 1 lesbian burned alive in her car. Is that okay? No! No, it's not okay. It is not okay that our Black and Latino brothers and sisters can't walk down the street because they are subjected to stop and frisk still. Our brown brothers and sisters can't even go home half the time because they are afraid of picking up. Our brown brothers and sisters that just happened in the fire, they are still living in their cars and have to sneak around to survive. That is not okay, is it? No! People all over the world are fearing us because they think that we're about to get into a nuclear war. We have a right as one of the wealthiest, biggest countries to take care of our foreign brothers and sisters so they can live comfortable. Is it okay that we have an idiot in the White House whose finger can take us out? Is that okay? No! Yeah, I hear you, my brothers and sisters. The people who are yelling, "Fuck Trump," we need to fucking get you in the streets and keep you in the streets, and we need to look like this every single day. Because the only way that we make change is that we demand it. They're not giving it to us. We have to demand it. I want to end with this. Our planet is not even being recognized, and we have global warming going on. So you scientists out there, keep up the good work. Yeah. We got you. I just want to leave you with this. Rosa Parks said, "Knowing what must be done does away with fear." My sister Beyonce dropped the mic. Says power is not given to you. You have to take it.
Yeah, take it.
And my sister Audre Lorde said, "When we speak, we are afraid our words will not be heard or welcomed, but when we are silent, we are still afraid. So it's better to speak." You better speak up, motherfuckers. We need to be in the street. I'll now let you in.
Right, yeah, yeah.
Y'all put your hands together one more time for Alex Yu. Audrey. Oh. There's so much movement, there's so much energy, and there's so much connection amongst us. And we have to make sure that we keep this kind of motivation going, this kind of momentum moving. Keep our voices heard, uplifted, loud and clear. I see a lot of people out there that are registering folks to vote. If you need to register, please do. There are a lot of petitions that are going out around in the crowds. I know Proposition S is out there addressing families without homelessness and art funding and a myriad of other things. So please make sure you register to vote now so that you can also participate in these amazing petitions that are circling that are good for our community. Coming up next to our amazing stage, we have Cecilia King and Vivian Garcia. We Said Enough. Both women are from the We Said Enough campaign to end sexual harassment and assault. And Cecilia works with the state senate, Vivian works with the state assembly. They signed the open letter published to the LA Times, breaking the silence on the sexist and abusive culture at the state capitol. Put your hands together, show your voices and your love for these amazing heroines.
Today with my colleague Dalia on behalf of the We Said Enough campaign. It's such a beautiful day. city of San Francisco, and I would not want to be anywhere else than here today with all of you, the women's Hear Our Vote Rally and March. Who's as excited as I am to be here today? This event, like so many others taking place all around the country today, is putting those who have been found guilty of diminishing women and girls on notice. On notice that we will no longer put up with sexual harassment, sexual assault, or male dominance that was also experienced by our mothers and grandmothers. We said enough, so hear our vote. We said enough because time is up. This is a movement that is growing and resonating all across America. As women, we make up more than over half of the population. So guess what? We will not be ignored and we will not be silenced. We said enough, so hear our vote. Change. It's time for change. And yes, we will stay on it until we eradicate the sexist culture that is so pervasive in all of the workplaces, in every industry, in government, from the fields to the boardrooms to schools, athletics, and our homes. It's a sexist culture that prevents women from speaking their truths and being believed, and allows an oppressive behavior to continue and worsen. It's a sexist culture that compels so many brave women to stand up and say "Me Too" and to share their stories. It's a sexist culture that allows sexual predators like Donald Trump, Harvey Weinstein, Larry Nassar, and many others to sexually abuse our women and so many girls. It's a sexist culture that fails women from fair and equal treatment, including pay equity in our so-called democracy. But it's also a sexist culture that made feminist women like my abuelita Nena and my mom, our grandmothers and mothers, to raise strong and brave women to speak out and demand equity and justice. And make no mistake, we are changing that sexist culture. Wouldn't you agree we have their attention? I think we have their attention. We must hold those guilty of sexual assault and harassment accountable. We must break the very systems that protect and enable this culture to continue. This is why we said enough, dijimos basta, so hear our vote. And look around, there can be no doubt that we stand united. We have some very great supportive men here standing with us because they want change too. So let's pledge today to support women in leadership positions, to elect more women in office, and finally shatter that glass ceiling once and for all. And that shatter is going to be heard across the world, so that all of our sisters can stand up and say, we said enough, dijimos basta, so hear our vote. Thank you, everybody. Si se puede. Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes, we can! Yes, we can! Yes, we can!
Thank you. I just wanted to take this moment to really soak in all that we are right now. This is so amazing, and I just want y'all to know that this looks amazing from this view, and I feel so empowered right now. My name is Dalia King, and I want to tell you my story, our story. In October of 1991, a woman who I will one day call my soror, Anita Hill, took to the stand and testified and blew this country away. I was a baby. It's 2018, and I am here. We are all here carrying on Anita's voice from then. Her voice has been carried on by millions of women here and on social media, and within households. These discussions are still happening. Almost 30 years later, I am here talking about the same issue.
Yeah.
And I am part of the fight within government, just as she was. What I want to emphasize is that it was not just one testimony. It was not just one voice. It is not just one day. That I would be here to continue the legacy of her voice, or to be a very similar victim. In the last 2 weeks, I had to interact with my harassers and my assailants in a professional environment. And I had to do it professionally and with grace and with tact. And as a Black woman, it's a little difficult, a smidge. But I also want to emphasize that women have to undergo this day after day. We have to endure this sort of behavior and then wake up the next morning and go right back to work. Because people are depending on us to not only get our work done, but to provide for our families and continue to provide for our community. And that is a heavy weight on our shoulders that is not nearly acknowledged enough. I'm speaking to working in a hostile environment, a hostile and toxic environment that is protected by an overwhelming culture that is full of patriarchy and supremacy that can no longer stand. Because just as many as any of these other women, we still see him. We still have to talk to him. We still have to work with them. And we can't allow this to continue. We have to stop enduring and start making a proclamation that we will no longer participate in this system. The system is not for us, it is not working for us, and we will change it. So, like all of you, I am here demanding justice. And I want all of these assailants, the perpetrators, to know that they have done wrong. Because simply being fired isn't going to do enough. Because they'll occupy another space around other women, and they'll continue this atrocious action. And more women will be impacted by this. It impacts the way how we think. It impacts our relationships from here on out. And you will always have a whisper in the back of your head, wondering if he's really here for you or to manipulate you, to diminish you. And with women in power and women occupying all these spaces, we can no longer allow that to stand. And that is why our voices are clear and loud and here today. So, what I want and what I'm going to take away from this is that this is only the beginning. We'll come out here, we will stand, and we'll make these speeches, and we will march. but we will go back into our workplaces and we will call these actions out. We will make demands that and let them know that this is no longer acceptable, and we will improve for the next generation. So then another Black girl who's out here watching me, the same way that I watched Anita Hill, will not have to be on this same stage almost 30 years from now making the same proclamation. On behalf of We Said Enough, we say, time's up. Thank you. All right, so I have the honor of introducing the former executive director of the Chicana Latina Foundation. Olga has been named one of the most influential Latinos in the San Francisco Bay Area, your home, and a heroine of the Latino community, amongst many other awards. I'm proud to introduce Olga Talamante.
Viejitas, the old veteranas like me, and I can march with all the young ones and keep up with you. You'll see. And this is also the 1-year anniversary of the inauguration of our collective nightmare. So we celebrate by being here together and marching. They celebrate by shutting the government down. What a comparison. A whole year where we have been besieged by the daily attacks on our communities, on our Muslim brothers and sisters, on our indigenous native sisters, on our transgender community, on our Black community, and the relentless attacks on our immigrant families with the suspension of DACA, and more recently, bringing an end to temporary protective services for our Haitian and Central American sisters and brothers. And I'm not gonna repeat what he said about those countries where they come from and where we come from. Those are glorious countries of our ancestors. For this whole year, we have witnessed the dismantling of our hard-won rights as the administration takes away you women's reproductive rights, ignores the truth about climate change, devises plans to deport dreamers and other immigrants, and dismantles worker protections and healthcare reform. And that's just what they did this past week. So there's a long list, unfortunately. But on all those fronts, we, you, us, in the resistance movement, we have marched and advocated and fundraised and called legislators and gathered as strangers to emerge as fellow resistors, as we are here today. And you are my sisters and brothers and fellow resistors and fellow disruptors, which is what we need to do today. So it is the anniversary of that inauguration. But most importantly, it is the anniversary of that faithful women's march in response to that inauguration. So let's be clear. The whole past year, it's not about them. Today is not about them. Here in our beloved city, it's about us. It's about how we become stronger in our determination to resist every single attack. And believe me, I have felt the despair and the anguish almost on a daily basis as we witness all those attacks. And I'm not trying to paint a rosy picture. I'm too old for that. But I do paint a true picture of what has happened to us as we struggle to maintain our hope and to find the shining lights of inspiration and we have to have hope. Otherwise, why would we be doing this? Why would we be here? We do have hope that things will change, that we will change things. So we find the shining lights of hope and inspiration from the dignity and the bravery of Standing Rock, and from the brilliance and leadership of our Black sisters in Alabama, and from the courage, yes, and from the courage of our undocumented youth who continue to lead and take their own actions to confront the legislators who hold their fate in their hands. So we at Chicana Latina Foundation, we have found the shining lights of hope and inspiration by continuing to support the new generations of social justice leaders with our scholarship and leadership and advocacy programs. We are proud to have been among the first organizations to provide scholarships to undocumented students and have done so over the years and will continue. And I would like now for you to meet one of them, because one of the things that we are very respectful of is that we don't speak for the dreamers speak for themselves. I'm honored to introduce to you one of our scholarship recipients, a DACA student, one of the leaders in the Dreamer movement. She currently works for one of the most important organizations in the movement, Educators for Fair Consideration. Please welcome Arianna Aparicio.
Buenas tardes, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Arianna Aparicio, and like Olga said, I am a DACA recipient. I have been since 2012. I'm originally from Mexico City. I came here at the age of 4, so it's pretty much your typical dreamer story. But what I do want to highlight is that I came to this country not knowing that I was undocumented, not knowing that what this would mean for me. I came at the age of 4 from a loving country, and leaving my grandparents behind, leaving my roots behind. And then I grew up in Marin County. I took advantage of the opportunities that were provided to me. You know, I did not take them away from anyone. I worked just as hard to apply for scholarships, and I went to Sonoma State University and got my BA in sociology. In 2011, and through the mentorship of so many wonderful people in my community, I continue to work hard, and I continue to give back to my community by being part of boards that help the Latino community and others that make a difference. And I'm a proud recipient of Chicana Latina Foundation. In 2010, when I didn't know what my leadership capabilities were, Chicana Latina Foundation showed me that there were other women like me making a difference in their community. So I'm truly grateful for that experience. And now, having worked at my alma mater for 2 years as an academic advisor, now I get to work for Educators for Fair Consideration, who are doing the work in the communities to help other undocumented young people pursue their dreams and careers. So I'm really happy to be able to give back in that. And ultimately, my work in the undocumented community, it's not right now, and it has been. And we have to continue to work to not only support the undocumented communities, but all the other underrepresented communities that are being targeted right now, because what affects one affects everyone mutually and not exclusively. So we have to be in this together. And my story is the typical story of a dreamer, but I think for me, I'm an undocumented being until someone decides otherwise. I'm a human being. In the end, I'm still human, I'm still Mexican, I'm still dreaming. And I'm not letting this because I want to continue making a difference, and I want to be at the top, at the level where the changes happen. So I'm looking forward to hopefully being an applicant, a PhD student in education, so that I can make a difference. And just to end, I ask all of you to take part of this movement by donating to local organizations doing the work like E4FC, Siren, all of those organizations locally, and also to become part of the Rapid Response Network. There's a Rapid Response Network out there to help undocumented people know where there's ICE raids to protect them. So I just ask you and urge you to get involved as much as you can to support everyone in your community. Thank you.
So sisters and brothers, we must stand in solidarity with Arianna and our dreamers and our DACA students. We call on you to help us keep them here. This is their home. They are our loved ones, our friends, our neighbors, our family, and I'll be damned if I'm gonna let them take Arianna away. Are you with me? Let the administration and the Congress know that we dream together, we march together, and we will act as one to bring them down in November of 2018 and in 2020. So say it with me. We dream together, we act together. We dream together, we act together. We dream together, we act together.
We dream.
Thank you so much, Olga. When I say DACA, you say support. DACA!
Support!
DACA!
Support!
DACA!
Support!
That's right, and we have to keep organizing locally if we want to keep these movements going forward and let them know that we say no, that resistance is real, and that we plan to take this all the way. And we will always show up, and we will always come out in numbers, and we will always make sure that our voices and our votes are heard. So a few other things that we need to talk about. Let's give it up for all the amazing and brilliant and wonderful and heart-giving volunteers that have made this happen. This is a volunteer endeavor. Please show your absolute love to all the people who made today happen, to all the people pushing petitions through the audiences, bringing us our vote, bringing us protest and everything else we have out there. I want to also remind people that there is ASL and wheelchair space right here in the front if anyone is having trouble seeing or understanding. All right, coming up next, we have Cecilia Cheung from the Transgender Law Center, Senior Director of Strategic Projects for Transgender Law Center, former Chair of the San Francisco Human Rights Commission, activist and advocate for the LGBTQ community and those living with HIV and AIDS, featured on the ABC Ministries When We Rise. Put your hands together and show your love for Cecilia Cheung.
Happy anniversary, sisters. Happy anniversary, San Francisco. Happy anniversary, Bay Area. I love you all. When I first came to this country, I knew I have to come up to San Francisco because I knew this was the place where I could call home because it was the most tolerant place, well, about 40 years ago, here in the United States. We have a lot of advancement, and I really appreciate all the wonderful things that you all have provide for my beloved community. People living with HIV and transgender people, whether they're men or women, they get to be seen as your equal. They get to be treated as equal. So why can't our ruling party do the same good deeds to treat us all as equal? Why do the ruling parties continue to persecute women? Because they want to control how we make decisions for our bodies, how we make decisions for our life, how we make decisions for our family. That needs to stop. Our body is not up for negotiation. How we live our lives is our business and not some legislators or the White House occupiers, that's not their decisions to make. We are not here to be objectified and refuse to be objectified anymore. Just this year, like Alex said, we have seen 2 trans women both got murdered. They were both murdered by their intimate partners. So domestic violence and intimate partner violence issues are real in the women's community. And we need to make sure that we end that. When we talk about Me Too, let's talk about ending the violence that comes with it. Otherwise, we are doing a half-assed job. Let's make sure that our children have a great city and a world to live in. There's nothing wrong to have San Francisco value, don't you think? We love San Francisco value. We want more places to understand San Francisco values. If there is a day we can transform the entire country into a big-ass San Francisco, let's do it. Help us register everybody to vote, and we have 3 years to take everything back. Thank you.
Let's put our hands together one more time for Cecilia Cheung. And moving with the momentum of brilliance, we have next to the stage Amy Allison, Democracy in Color, President of Democracy in Color, an organization focused on race, politics, and the new American majority, host of Democracy in Color podcast, and author of Army of None. Put your hands together, show your love for Amy Allison, Democracy of Color.
San Francisco. On this first anniversary, we meet together in cities like ours and across the country as the first day of the government shutdown. And having ICE threaten to come into our sanctuary state and start rounding up immigrants. So it's time to take our pink hats and our signs and take our power to the polls. I want to talk about back some 27 years ago in 1991. I was a college student and I watched Anita Hill, then a young and very courageous law professor, sit in front of an all-white male Senate Judiciary Council and say, look, the guy you're considering for Supreme Court Justice sexually harassed me. And I saw the way they grilled her and they tried to destroy her. But what happened was that women all over the country of all colors said, and the bumper sticker said, Anita, we believe you. Women all over the country and communities like this organized and swept in the first group of women into our Senate, including Carol Moseley Braun, the first black woman senator in our history. But if what happened all those years ago was a wave, they are now facing a tsunami. Today, we are the architects of a new political and cultural era in America, and it is an era that is crafted and led by women of color, in particular, black women. In Alabama, an independent effort took a group black women voters who are only 7% of the voting population in that state. It's a state that Trump won and no Democrat has controlled for decades. They talked to black women, they organized with black women, and black women turned 98% out for the Democrats. Because of that victory in Alabama, the Democrats were able to put 2 people on the Senate Judiciary Committee, the same committee that Anita Hill stood before some years ago, and it was last week that two black senators, Senator Cory Booker and our very own Senator Kamala Harris, stood before the Secretary of Homeland Security and said, "How dare you? How dare you treat DACA recipients like this? How dare you threaten and consider immigrants who are our fellow Americans and citizens, but for documentation like that, we will not tolerate it, and it is not going to be accepted in our country." It matters who is there, because how much did it lift us to see the fury and the fire, and to elevate us to another moral level, that we will not call people who are immigrants from African and Caribbean countries by name. We will not deny the humanity for people all over the world. We will not tolerate when the most dangerous elements in this last year have been from white supremacist groups right here in our country. We will not tolerate this, not in San Francisco, not in California, and nowhere. A year ago, we marched under a new politic. It's an intersectional politic that brings together gender justice, racial justice, LGBT, religious justice, ability, all together under a new banner. And we evolved as a movement. We're not the women's movement. We're a movement of women. Coretta Scott King said many years ago, "If the soul of our nation is to be saved, we must be the soul." And we together, as part of this new politic and new intersectional, multiracial, progressive vision, can lead the nation in the streets and to the polls to lead and to secure our future. You see, Alabama was just in a long line of black women and other women of color who are the godmothers of this movement. It's Shirley Chisholm, the first Democratic woman to run for president. It's Ella Baker. It's Fannie Lou Hamer. It's Grace Lee Boggs. It's women all over the country and throughout our history who guide us and strengthen us for the move forward. So, if we want to win our country back, and our work in democracy and color is clear, then we must do something very important. We must recognize that black women are the highest vote turnout group of any race and gender in the country. Black women will lead us. We must recognize that Latina, Asian American, and Native American women have high vote turnout, and that if we speak to, elevate, engage women of color, then we have a path to victory this year and beyond. In California, 3 of 5 women are women of color. So when we look at those 7 congressional seats, those Republicans who've been voting lockstep with Trump, sitting on top of districts that voted Democratic in the last presidential election, if we look at women of color, we know that we have everything that Alabama has and then some. We're not 7% of the population, we're in the population, and we have the power to take those seats in California away from the Trump light. We have the power to win. It's time for us to elevate our nation, who we are. I believe in this country still. I believe in us. I believe in the power of black women to lead us through the wilderness into victory, and I believe in the multiracial, progressive agenda that will secure the future for everyone. A human rights agenda, a social equity agenda is what we can accomplish now. And so, yes. figures. These are the women of color who are the architects of the successful campaigns in 2018. Joanna Thompson was the black woman who ran the whole program in Alabama. She knows how to get it done. Tram Nguyen is the brilliant strategist in Virginia who secured the gubernatorial win there. She knows how to get it done. Alina Garcia in Virginia is leading voice, defending DACA. She is in Washington right now. She knows how to get it done. Anathea Chino has been working to secure victories for Native American women through the South and Southwest. She knows how to get it done. And Johanna Silva-Walkie right here in San Francisco can lead campaigns. She knows how to get it done. Our hidden figures need to be funded. We need to talk to, we need to elevate, we need to engage, we need to trust women of color. We are the soul of the nation. Collectively, we can do it. I call it she the people. I call it power to the polls. I call it our future. And I call on you to join all year as we elevate women of color for our future. Thank you very much.
You all put your hands together one more time for Amy. I just have a very quick announcement to make. I want to make sure that we make space for the EMTs to get through. So if you are standing in one of the lanes, one of the thoroughfares where the EMTs need to get through, please do stand aside, please do make room, and please don't sit quite in those walkway and runway areas so that we can get folks the help that they need. Thank you so much.
And let's bring to the stage Zahra Billow from the Council on American Islamic Relations. She's a civil rights attorney. She won a Human Rights Award last year for suing the Trump administration for the Muslim ban. Put your hands together.
Yes. Show your love, San Francisco Women's March. Show your love.
Assalamu alaikum, San Francisco. As Muslims say, greetings of peace. Today, I stand here honored to be part of a groundbreaking movement. Last year, as I prepared my comments for the Women's March on Washington, I recall asking my sister Linda Sarsour, what does one say to 250,000 people? She paused, she smiled, and she said, it's going to be so many more. And it was. There were so many people in DC, there was no room to march. A stark difference from the inauguration the day before. And it wasn't just DC though, it was everywhere. Here, across the state, and even across the world. I asked myself, how do we make this moment a movement? And the next week, we did. When thousands of people descended onto airports to charge no Muslim ban ever. It has been a hard year for me, my community, and all of us. Bad news every day. I jump every time the doorbell rings or someone walks up on me because I don't know if it's a violent bigot or a friend. Every day, I look over my shoulder, I lock my doors, I have a safety plan, and let's be real, I'm careful about who I date. My friends have hired security guards. My organization has security cameras. But the terrifying thing is that we're not just worried about hate crimes, we're worried about state-sanctioned violence. Who calls the police when they kill our neighbors? Who calls the feds when they ban our families? But as an American Muslim woman, I understand that I am just one part of this movement. I don't march for any of you. I march with all of you. and justice cannot be for just us. I march with the undocumented women who fear deportation. Because my work isn't just no Muslim ban ever. It's no ban, no wall, no raids. Say it with me. No ban, no walls, no raids. I march with women who are surviving sexual assault and bravely speaking out to say time is up. I march with the women who are working multiple jobs and barely making Bay Area rents. With the trans women who face deadly attacks when they use public restrooms. With the black women standing up against police brutality. And I don't just march with everyone my age. I march with generations who came before me and women across the world. With the Iranian women who are standing up to an oppressive regime, but also saying that they will not be tools of Islamophobia. With the young Ahed Tamimi who is being jailed indefinitely in apartheid Israel because she asserted her human rights as a Palestinian. I march for my beautiful nieces who should grow up with a better country than we did. But what do we do to move forward? Last night, Republicans who control the House, Senate, and White House could not effectively pass a spending bill. Their white supremacist agenda to deport undocumented youth took precedence over essential government functions. But members of the military and ICE will continue with their immoral jobs and receive payments because the machine's priorities are clear. Make the White House and everything rich, white, and male again. But you didn't need me to tell you that. DACA rescission, the Muslim ban, the war on drugs, and the other recent policy developments tell you that. Here's where we come in. The best part, members of Congress will continue to get paid during the shutdown. Imagine that. You work for a company, you drive it into the ground, you furlough your workers. Would you still get paid? I wouldn't. But catch this. You work for the organization. The government and every single elected official involved in this debacle works for us. They work for you and me. We own the organization, and we are saying no more. We need you as part of the rallying cry to hear our vote and power to the polls. You're here today. Next week, donate to a political campaign or nonprofit organization. The week after, volunteer at one. The week after, when Republicans are still whining and Democrats, it's not just about the Republicans, when Democrats are doing things like supporting fascist surveillance legislation. We know who they are, and some of them are in the Bay Area. We will need you to tweet at them and write letters to the editor. The following week, if the government is still shut down, or even if that's over, if we don't have a Clean Dream Act, we will need you to put your bodies on the line to stop deportations, to make phone calls, send postcards, and urge your cities to become sanctuaries, to force institutional change. Fast forward to the elections. Our lives and the lives of our neighbors will depend on us firing some of these people who claim to work for us. Show them the door. We have our work cut out for us, but it's our organization and our country, and we are taking it back. On the hard days, when I look over my shoulder, I take comfort in the crowds and community of resistance that have developed this past year. Those who seek to turn back the clock on our country will hear our vote. They will hear us roar. Say it again, no Muslim ban ever.
No Muslim ban ever.
No ban.
No ban.
No wall.
No wall.
No raids.
No raids.
They will hear us roar. Thank you, San Francisco. Now please join me in welcoming Rabbi Katie Mizrahi from the Or Shalom Jewish Community Center to the stage.
Shabbat Shalom. It is an honor to stand here today with sisters. There are those who would prefer to divide us, race by race, religion by religion, but we are not going to let that happen. No! We are here today to celebrate and strengthen one another in all of our beautiful diversities. Give it up, San Francisco! When I was a girl, we learned to say the Pledge of Allegiance in public school. And we teach it to our children now. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Some of those words I love. Liberty and justice for all. Not just for some, for all, yes. Indivisible, yes, indivisible. One nation under God. Yeah. Maybe. As a person who believes in the separation of church and state, even as I am a religious leader, those words make me nervous. But after living through 2017, I've come to think we really need those words or something like them, because when we say one nation under God, it's another way of saying that this nation operates in a moral universe that matters. One nation under God means nobody is above the law. No man, no woman, Democrat, Republican, immigrant or native-born, king or corporate executive, no person, no matter what office they hold, is above the law. There is no executive privilege that excuses the abuse of power. One nation under God means that leaders are not given permission to use position for enriching themselves or satisfying some lust for power, for fame, for pleasure. They are not given permission. One nation under God means that there is moral accountability. There is truth. No human being gets to play God. No! It's a lesson that we humans have been trying to teach ourselves for a very, very long time. The Abrahamic traditions teach it through the story of one man who learned that lesson the hard way. Pharaoh. A man who did not know that he was not God. A man who enslaved a nation to build towers to glorify his name. A man who used the poisonous politics of fear and hatred to stay in power. A man who brought down plague upon plague till he learned that even he would one day be held accountable. That man had to watch as 1 million people rose up and marched across the sea to their freedom through miraculous walls of water led by Miriam with song and dance, Miriam with a timbrel in her hands. Yeah! The miracles of that story are not just what you would think. They're not just the plagues and the splitting of the sea, because inside of every person's heart, a small miracle occurred. The miracle of hope and awakening that brought them to their feet to run, walk, and stumble into freedom. And that is our moment today. Right now, we are about to walk across that sea. Today, we remember our freedom. Today, we remember our joy, our power. Tomorrow, we may still not be done with plagues. Pharaoh may yet again harden his heart. But today we taste what it is to be a free people in a free land, marching peacefully to demand a new kind of leadership. Today we say, no more will we allow a morally bankrupt leadership to define this democracy. We, the people, must define and lead this democracy. People of integrity and honesty, people of conscience. It will not be easy, but that doesn't mean it must be joyless. Any woman who has given birth knows this. Let's shout out for our mothers. Because even if the suffering and the effort is real, there is limitless joy bringing a miracle into this world, and that is what we are about here, calling for a miracle. Today, we ask for the miracle of hope and strength to move through us as we transform this country to be what it aspires to be, a land of liberty and justice for all, a land of moral courage, a beacon of human and divine light. So many of us are here today in this city and our sister marches worldwide, and it's not just us here in this moment. It's our grandmothers and our grandmothers' grandmothers who fought for the freedom and equality that made this moment possible. It's our grandchildren and our grandchildren's grandchildren lent from a future we do not yet know. A future that we hope for. They are here too, rooting for us to do what it will take to make this year, 2018, the turning point that it must be. So I want to sing with you just one song, and I hope you'll join me, lifting our spirits, remembering our power and our light. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. In those vulnerable congressional districts, I'm gonna let it shine. In those vulnerable congressional districts, I'm gonna let it shine. In those vulnerable congressional districts, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. For my children's children, for my children's children, I'm gonna let it shine. For my children's children, I'm gonna let it shine. For my children's children, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. When I'm feeling down, when I'm feeling down, I'm gonna let it shine. When I'm feeling down, I'm gonna let it shine. When I'm feeling down, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. All across the world, all across the world, I'm gonna let it shine. All across the world, I'm gonna let it shine. All across the world, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Thank you, Rabbi Katie, for letting it shine. And bring our voices into one unison. It's absolutely wonderful, absolutely beautiful, and this is exactly why this kind of work is so important. It's so important that we do this for us and for the generations in front of us and the generations behind us and those that we haven't even conceived of yet. This is what matters, and this is what it means. A few moments of housekeeping and things that we need to know. The Trolleys, WMSF is providing trolleys for senior and disabled individuals. Glide is also providing a trolley for their group. The trolleys will arrive on park on Grove Street. The trolleys will arrive and park on Grove Street for seniors and disabled individuals, as well as Glide Memorial. These streets are designated parking spots to load passengers prior to the march and at 1:30, which is in about 10 minutes. At 1:30, the trolleys will proceed to line up via Polk Street to Market Street. The trolleys will lead the march at 2 p.m. The trolleys will lead the women's march down Market Street to Justin Herman Plaza and be directed to turn off at Market to unload the riders. To make sure that everybody is clear about where to meet, at 1:30, the trolleys will line up on Polk Street and head towards Market, and will end at Market Street to unload the riders, just so everybody is clear.
Thank you.
How are we feeling out there? Are we ready to rally our voices and this vote? So many voices and that need to be paid attention to, and that we need to bring our awareness and support to. It has been absolutely amazing to be here with you today. My name is Mona Webb, and it is an absolute honor to address this amazing and brilliant audience. Coming up next to the stage, we have Jenny Friedenbach and Jacqueline Evans-Bobade from the Coalition on Homelessness. Jenny is the Executive Director of the Coalition on Homelessness in San Francisco. Jackie is a shelter client advocate with the Coalition on Homelessness. She has experienced homelessness, which is a part of what makes her such a strong advocate. Women, show your love. Supporters, show your love for Jenny Friedenbach and Jacqueline Evans-Bobade.
All right, San Francisco Bay, you ready for this? When I was just barely 14, I was raped while out on a date by my camp counselor at a sleepaway camp. It's a tragically common story, a young girl wooed by a handsome authority figure she inherently trusted. I thought I was mature and worldly when I explained I was a virgin and not ready for sex. Turned out it wouldn't have mattered what I said, because I was part of some crude game, as the bloody proof of his conquest was put on display as a flag to wave beneath the pretty pines and firs. But I consider myself to be lucky. I am no longer in the woods as I was that night. When I go to bed at night, I can close my eyes and relax into the knowledge that my kids' walls are thick and we have a door we can lock. For hundreds of thousands of women in the United States, that is simply not the case. They are out in the woods, in the parks, on the sidewalks, in jails, in tents, in shelters, in cars. They don't have thick walls. They don't have locks to turn. This past year, we have made strident progress drawing attention to the sexual harassment and assault that women face in the workplace. Women with admirable courage transform their private humiliations into great acts of dignified resistance. These acts are like a sledgehammer driven into the upper tiers of patriarchy, which have started to crumble. But there is a deafening silence with regards to the street. So silent, so quiet, like a bloody flag waving in the woods. For housed women, closing that door means an end to the sexual harassment they face on the streets and a breath of relief. For homeless women, that breath of relief never comes. It never comes. I think of Patricia, who is not so unlike the over 1,200 mothers experiencing homelessness in San Francisco alone. She was put out of a women's center. She was given no blanket for her night in the woods. She sat in a park while her and her children shivered so hard. Finally, she could not take it, and about 2 a.m. went to her children's father's house, a place she swore she would never return. He brutally beat her in front of her children. The silence surrounding her truth is ringing in all of us. Women become homeless because of racism, poverty, immoral inaction on our country's leaders' part. However, homeless women face another force: intimate partner in childhood sexual violence. Once women become homeless, they find themselves even more vulnerable to violence. They have the trauma of struggling to meet their children's basic needs. They are forced to partner with men out of desperation for safety. They find their physical and mental health deteriorating. Falls apart, they turn to drugs and alcohol out of despair. Then they are condemned, dehumanized, referred to as trash, and policy debates surrounding their existence call for their jailing and institutionalization. They find the shelters full and waits for housing years and years long. All women, in fact, all humans, have a fundamental right to safe and decent housing, and the solutions lay within that very truth. Our collective resistance as women, as trans women and allies, must include rising up against the federal divestment in housing that caused this crisis in the first place. We must rise up and work hard against the actions of Trump's HUD and his tax giveaway package that's forcing hundreds of thousands more to the streets. Our daily resistance must ensure homeless people have a safe place to sleep, shower, and thrive. I think of the very young Latina woman who, like me, was also camping. Instead of the forest, she was forced to camp in the streets of the Mission. She was serial raped one awful night. However, in this situation, instead of silence, her rape was used by a politically ambitious male politician as an excuse to put a mean initiative on the ballot to tear away her tent. She was not consulted as to whether this was a good idea or as to whether she was more safe sleeping exposed on the concrete or whether there was even room in the shelter. In fact, no homeless women were consulted because if they were, they would have heard that as awful as a tent is, it's far better than sleeping exposed on the sidewalk to whatever might walk by. And goddamn, the cost of tent destroyers would make sure every human in this country has a safe and decent place to call home. And none of us would be forced to sleep in a tent. As we rip through the silence and demand solutions to the severe poverty and destitution women face in this country, we must turn to those same women to lead us. I have one such woman, a powerful, beautiful, poverty-surviving woman right here next to me. Give it up for Jacqueline Evans!
Today, we are literate, educated, and liberated to lead. We find their surge forward, not only in the political forum, but also social life. But first of all, we need to understand what empowerment of women really means. If we have to understand its impact, empowerment is about being given authority and power to do something. It's about becoming confident and strong. Empowerment, again, means to become aware of one's rights, privileges, also to have the ability to control one's life in a more meaningful and fulfilling way. The term empowerment naturally presupposes a sense of powerlessness, doesn't it? Well, with women, it has been rightly so. Looking back centuries ago, we always find the dark side, where women were suppressed, treated as commodities, with no voice in decision-making, no role in deciding how social and community life evolved. But empowerment is in us, all of us. Every single color, size, religious belief made change come, not without struggle, not without sacrifice, protest, and conflict. Just like me, our transformation has come through many difficulties. This is why we have an obligation as women to keep the empowerment of women going. For our future, for our daughters, for our world. I am a former homeless, empowered woman who is still currently going through difficulties with housing with my children. I feel the pain of all of the women that are still out there. It's where I draw my strength. We have evolved, but we are never done. As women, our work is never done. This is why planting the seed now will help things grow, giving women more who are less fortunate the opportunity to have the courage to speak up about things like having more resources for women, being viewed as assets and not liabilities. This has to change if women's empowerment has to become a reality in its fullest sense. I am empowered, and I want to empower you to help us to put an initiative to support arts, culture, and house homeless families on the ballot and keep San Francisco the San Francisco we love, and show the world that San Francisco values are. Can I have the signatures gatherers raise their pink folders? They'll look just like this. If you want to support, you can find one of them here, or after the rally, they'll be down on 7th Street. Now, I would like to bring up and announce one of the women, another vibrant woman. Her name is Heather Hargreaves, the Executive Director of Next Gen America. Heather was responsible for Obama's campaign in Nevada and mobilized millennial voters for climate justice.
Give it up one more time for Jacqueline Evans!
Good afternoon, San Francisco. On behalf of Tom Steyer, our entire organization, I'm here to deliver a clear message. Last year's march ignited the resistance. This year's march is fanning the flames of this resistance, and by next year's march, I know that progressive resistance will have spread to Congress, across the country, and to our states. The women and men here today are fighting the Trump agenda of hate, injustice, and racism. We are here to oppose Donald Trump's and the Republicans' long trail of terrible policies on immigration, on healthcare, on education, on the environment, on every front. We're here because we cannot and will not stand by idly while this administration sacrifices the future of our climate on the altar of big oil. We're here because we know that climate change is the challenge of our time. We are here. We are committed to the Paris Agreement and to policies that preserve our environment, protect our natural resources, promote innovation, and create good, clean energy jobs here in California and across the United States. And we are here because from the moment Donald Trump took office, we made a firm promise that we would keep marching, keep organizing, and keep fighting until Donald Trump was out of office and the Republican agenda was defeated. But we aren't just fighting Donald Trump, we are fighting for something. We have to have, and we do have, a positive agenda to reclaim America and reaffirm American values. We stand for rebuilding America, a clean America that creates solid, stable union jobs of the 21st century. We stand for the rights of all Americans, immigrants, people of color, the LGBT community, women. We stand for a fair America where everyone can earn a living wage, where corporations pay their fair share, and where we invest in strong schools, safe streets, affordable housing, and healthcare for all. That's what we stand for. But how will we get there? simplest form of activism, good old-fashioned grassroots organizing. NextGen's top priority in 2018 is registering, mobilizing, and engaging young voters. And as a millennial myself, NextGen's work is personal. Our generation represents the largest, most diverse, most progressive voting bloc today. We're the ones that must force our representatives to deal with climate change or suffer the consequences of the delay. We're the ones that are fanning the flames of the Me Too movement. We're the ones that know the Black Lives Matter. And we're the ones that have pulled the levers for Democrats in Virginia. And together we can take back our country. But we can't just talk to young people. We have to talk to our parents and our grandparents about the issues that they care about and talk to them about why they should have a stake in our democracy. And that we need to make sure that they're registered and that they turn out on election day. And it's not going to be easy, and it's going to take a lot of work, but organizing and talking directly to voters is the only way that we can win, and we must win, because nothing less than the future of America is at stake. 2018 is our year. Now let's get to work. Thank you. I'd now like to introduce Joy Alon, activist and disabled poet and writer.
What's up, San Francisco? Make some noise! I stand before you today to show you that anything is possible if you truly believe in yourself and your purpose. I know what it's like to be told no or that I can't do something. Because I know who I am and what I wanted to be, I pursued my dreams. I fought against different forms of discrimination because of my skin color, gender, and disability. I like to say that I have a different ability because I use my writing to speak up for women, blacks, people of color, people with disabilities, and women of color with disabilities. We know that there's police brutality, but what people aren't aware of is that people with disabilities deal with police brutality too. That's why I'm wearing this shirt, because there's work to be done and we have a long way to go. You, me, we the people must become aware, vote, speak up and support each other, because you never know how something can impact us indirectly. Make sure you vote for officials who will fight for providing proper special education accommodations, access to all people with disabilities, and will speak up on police brutality. When I say all power to the people, it means to remember your power. Don't let anyone take your power from you. This poem that I'm about to do speaks on being underestimated in the workplace. But I know my rights and know how to ask for union representation, so I'm not blindsided. Women, we are stronger than we realize, and we don't know our strengths until we are forced to break down barriers. This poem is called Silently Outnumbered. Look at me. Without my hearing aid, I look like you, right? You wouldn't know if there was something wrong with me, but that's the thing. There isn't anything wrong with me. You treat me like I'm dumb. I smile to set out to prove you wrong. You're curious how I'm so productive, and because you can't get past the fact that I'm smarter than you think, you yell at me and try to find my fault. You want to shame me and tell other people how useless I am. When you walk into the room with your little cocky attitude, just done because I got backup. You're one man gangsta off the mafia. You brought a cap gun to a gunfight. You're shaking in your boots while politely smile and silently say, checkmate. You thought you could ambush me, instead I ambushed you. You were trying to throw me under the bus, but you didn't know I knew the bus driver. You should have paid attention to my resume. I graduated from 2 prestigious universities because I earned it. I watched enough law in order to know my rights, put my hands in the air, and I have the right to remain silent. silent. I just communicated in another way, and I said I'm sick of this BS. You're intimidated by me and think I'll take your job. You can relax. I don't want your punk old job. I see that more effective and productive than management. I don't get paid nearly where you are, but I still get things done in a timely manner. Are you serious? Are you really serious? You talk about loyalty. I believe in loyalty, but that comes after you've proven yourself. Honestly, I don't owe you anything, and I don't have any reason to be loyal to you. If I can't kiss my own butt, then why would I kiss yours? I'm looking out for number one. I'm not fighting for anything. I will stand up for myself. While everyone is running in circles around you, timid and panicking, in the midst of the chaos, I'm always standing alone, rolling my eyes with my mouth wide open, ready to be fed. And if that makes me an easy target, then have at it, because you don't know I have somebody ready to take you out if you even think about messing with me. Do you really think I'm dumb? Don't challenge me because I won't back down. I've known about this game for a long time and I studied the rules. You thought you could beat me, and I don't care what you think about me. You learned the hard way. Don't mess with me, and don't ever insult my intelligence. All power to the people. Thank you.
And keeping that fierce momentum going, coming up next to the stage, we have Brittany Packnett from Campaign Zero, protester, co-founder of Campaign Zero, and to end protest violence and pod save the people. You all put your hands together and show your love for Brittany Packnett!
How you feeling, San Francisco? No, you look too powerful for that. How you feeling, San Francisco? Beautiful, you look powerful, you look fed up. I am so honored to be here with you all, my family in the struggle. Just 1 year after 5 million of us shook the world and reminded every world leader that the women of the world will not be silenced. It is an honor to be with you after a year when women protected Planned Parenthood, when disabled women protected ACA, while women rise to run for office in epic numbers, when trans women filled offices and Muslim women won races and black women saved everything. Yes, indeed, it's good to be with you on today, but I must admit it's good to be with you because I know it was not always promised. You see, it was not always promised that a black girl from flyover country with a slave owner's last name would be invited to share a podium in the midst of a feminist wave, because if we come with truth in our hearts and honesty on our tongues, we must collectively confess that feminism was not always for all of us. Too many times some of our foremothers stood in their privilege and fought for their rights, their causes, their needs alone. And I greatly laud and respect the efforts of suffrage, but too many of its foremost fighters left my great-grandmothers to fight for their right to vote for another 40 years. I am more than thankful for the strides they made, but movements have told women of color, disabled women, poor women, gay women, trans women, that our rights, our causes, our needs were nothing but distractions. We were accused of being divisive, standing boldly in the tradition of our sister Sojourner and proclaiming, "Ain't I a woman too?" Our feminism must not require me to erase my identity. But my heart is glad on today because we stand at the vanguard of a new movement for and by women. We're here because we know the patriarchy ain't gonna smash itself. Together we will lead a new movement that will render no woman a hidden figure. I know that we can be the generations that finally get feminism right, who will build a movement as inclusive as the world we demand to see, who will build a struggle as diverse as the country we are designing. We will be the movement that turns times up into a time for equity. We will be the generation that turns Me Too into never again.
ourselves free, equal, or liberated. None of us are free until all of us are free. I stand before you today to tell you that despite our chorus of land of the free, America is one of the top incarcerators of women in the world. Every day, over 200,000 of our sisters sit behind bars, bound in inhumane conditions, striving to live free. If you listen closely, you will hear them. Every day across this land, 12,000 pregnant women are subject to inadequate health care and risk being shackled while they give birth in one of America's prisons. While we enjoy the privilege of our freedom, young indigenous girls who were meant to inherit the land of their birth are instead more likely than others to be tossed in juvenile detention centers and be sexually and physically abused at the hands of authorities. While we walk around our liberal enclaves with expensive coffee cups and designer protest gear, we ignore the new slave labor that knitted each stitch and pressed each label in the new Jim Crow of the carceral state. While our progressive leaders legalize marijuana, Black and Latino women are more likely than any other to go to jail for a drug offense, paying the hidden cost of the so-called war on drugs, which we know to simply be a war on poor Black and brown people. We must never forget that each of us is separated from our incarcerated sisters by circumstance and not by value. We are separated simply by virtue of a good education, or a domestic partner who didn't traumatize us, or a family who can afford proper mental health care, or by virtue of our country of origin. There, but by the grace of God or a twist of fate, go each of us. I will tell you, it is hard to march for women of color behind bars and not look around and see all of our sisters. It was heartbreaking to march for Sandra Bland and Charlena Lyles and Erica Garner and feel that as women of color we were alone. But none of us are born woke. And as I look out on this crowd, I'm so thankful to see that the power of women is finally awakened in each of us. I don't care how you got woke. I only care that you stay woke. So as we continue to fight for women, remember your sisters whose imprisonment means they can't walk with us in person, but they struggle with us in spirit. And as you march across this city, remember the immigrant women and the indigenous women who make this land great and who must be central to our actions. As you campaign for your candidate, keep in mind how they will serve the domestic worker just as well as they serve the Silicon Valley CEO, because neither status nor income should prevent freedom. As you wave your banners, remember the cisgender women and the transgender women, for womanhood is defined beyond any label. As you set your meetings, make room for the disabled women, just as you make room for the temporarily able-bodied women, for no disability can diminish another woman's value to this movement. And when you go to the ballot box in November and you take on that glorious battle that I know we're all spoiling for, remember as you pull your lever the lot of women of color as you remember your own. A key to our collective freedom sits at that ballot box in November. With every vote you cast, you have the power to lock it shut, slowing the pace of freedom for future generations, or you can show up, unlock it, not just for some, but for all of us. Now, you may be wondering, who am I to demand that feminism stands for me also? Who am I to demand that women get woke and stay woke for the sake of us all? Well, I'll tell you who I am. I'm Gwendolyn's daughter and Charlene and Mamie's granddaughter, the women who taught me to march just like I did in Ferguson and just like we do today. I am my ancestors' wildest dreams. I am an imagined victory my foremothers fought for but never knew would come to pass. I have inherited the blood of enslaved women and Jim Crow women and erased women and courageous women. Blood that was shed so that I might vote. Blood that was shed so that we might run. Blood that was shed so that we might fight. I am
the heir to my great-great-grandmother's stolen labor that built this land for free, and the sister of my incarcerated family who still does so. I am you. You are me. Our liberation is bound up with one another, and that makes me my sister's keeper and you mine. I vow to fight for and fight alongside you with all the love and power I can muster, because it's not freedom unless we get there together. And I don't care who is in the White House, because when we bind together in love, the power is ours. The power belongs to the people. It always has and it always will. So power to the people, power to all women, power to our freedom. God bless you.
Give it up for Brittany Jacqueline! Yes, 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 yes! And keeping the fire of empowerment going, we now have coming to the stage Supervisor Hillary Ronan with Supervisor Sandra Lee Fewer. Hillary Ronan represents District 9 on the San Francisco Board of Supervisors and was the director of La Raza's Worker Rights Unit. Sandra Lee Fewer represents District 1 on the San Francisco Board of Supervisors and just authored a resolution to impeach President Trump. Put your hands together for Supervisor Hillary Ronan and Supervisor Sandra Lee Fewer.
My name is Maya.
Better, you can do. Do you want me to do it for you? Okay. Mael is my 5-year-old daughter, and she wanted to come up here today to say that Donald Trump needs a very long time out. Hello, beautiful people. I am Sandra Lee Fewer, here with my colleague on the Board of Supervisors, Supervisor Hillary Ronan. And it's an honor to be here today with tens of thousands of powerful women and allies standing together in resistance of number 45 and its targeting of women, LGBT people, immigrants, and low-income communities of color. This last year, man, we all took a beating. From healthcare to immigration, to protecting our environment, to protecting basic human rights. We have seen a time, I know in my lifetime, I thought I would never see. An elected leader who lacks leadership, but rather fills our country with hate, bigotry, and racist ideology. But I have also seen something completely remarkable. A fire has been lit in the hearts and minds of Americans. And we, the good people of the United States, have fought back. And in small towns and in big cities all over this country, we are fighting back. And we are fighting our way back by the power of vote. Election after election, people are standing up, and people who never saw themselves as elected officials are running, and they are winning. And this is how we take it back. We run, we vote, we get more people to run, and we get more people to vote. We go beyond resisting, we knock on doors, we join phone banks, and we march in solidarity as we are today to show this country that we love so much, that this is worth fighting for. I have also seen some extraordinary bravery and courage this year. As a 60-year-old woman, I joined other women painfully, and I say, yes, me too. As a mother of daughters, I say enough. This is the time. The fire has been ignited, and it must never go out. If this has taught me anything, it has taught me that we can never, ever be complacent. The fight for reproductive rights, the fight for human and civil rights, the fight for human decency and humanity is ongoing, and every generation must fight for it. In a city
City and County of San Francisco, we have reaffirmed our commitment to our immigrant community, to our LGBTQ folks, and for basic human rights for people. We have filed 2 lawsuits against the Trump administration, and we are fighting back strongly, and we will not back down. We have locked arms with our brothers and sisters, and we have said, citizen, undocumented, legal resident, here for whatever you want to be, we are with you. 2018 is our year. It is a year we take back Congress and flex our muscle in the polls, from the local to the federal level. Are you ready? I vote. Do you? Thank you so much. Who's ready to march? Who's ready for some action? Last year we were here, we were right here, and we were here to affirm our values. We were here to say we're about love and acceptance and mutual respect. And we were fearful that this administration was going to do everything that it has done over the last year. So what this year is about action. And I want everyone here to look at the person next to you, look them in the eye, and say, not only will I march today, but I will not stop the fight all year long. And let me remind you some ways to do that, because we have fights right here in San Francisco. And one of those fights is the fact that families like mine can hardly afford to live in this city anymore. We're struggling. I know you're all struggling, all you beautiful people. We have less children in our city than in any major city in this nation. And so there are people collecting signatures in the crowd today, and I ask you to join us to put a measure on the ballot in June that would grant universal child care for every child in San Francisco. Sandy and I want to see your beautiful faces in City Hall, and you should demand that we act, and that our colleagues act, and that our mayor acts to serve your interests, not the corporate interests. And all of us are going to be working in those 14 districts in California where those Republican lawmakers are vulnerable, and we're going to get the Democratic opponents elected so we can take back Congress in Washington, D.C. And then finally, and remind you, this is a lawmaker saying this. If the law is not just, it is our responsibility to put our bodies on the line, engage in civil disobedience, and stop that unjust law from being practiced to raid our immigrants from our community, to stop women from getting abortions, and to put our Muslim brothers and sisters in everyday fear. We do not have to follow unjust laws. As Martin Luther King said, if we are open about it, and if we are willing to accept the consequences, then it is our duty to violate unjust laws. So that's what we're going to do this year, Mr. Trump! Thank you so much for being here. I think, do you want to try one more time? Mayel's going to try it one more time. Are you ready?
My name's Mayel, and I'm 5 years old, and Donald Trump needs a very long time out.
Give it up one more time for our supervisors. And we do have people around getting the petition for universal child care signed. We have the petition for Proposition S going around to be signed. Make sure we also have voter registration forms going around to be signed. San Francisco voters, these things are important. All right, a few more really important things. I want to say thank you so much to our amazing ASL interpreters, Samantha Johnson, Genevieve Says, Carol Day, Becky Edens, USA Washington, and all of our amazing volunteers and brilliant speakers. So here's the plan around the march. Here's the good stuff, right? So the trolleys are going to be loading their riders from the corner of Grove and Polk. Trolleys are loading riders from the corner of Grove and Polk and will leave via Polk to Market Street for the lineup. The march lineup on Grove will leave via Market and 7th. And the march down Market Street will be to Embarcadero. We will start to break down at Civic Center Plaza by 4 p.m. And there's a Revolutionary Green Crew to Embarcadero for cleanup, which will be completed by 6. So we all have amazing signs out here and brilliant, wonderful. Hold them all up. Hold them all up. Isn't that a beautiful artistic array of just pure genius, art and activism, in practice, in progress? Yes, yes, yes. Now, make sure you take those signs with you. At the end of it all, I'm looking forward to seeing these signs marching down Market Street. I'm looking forward to feeling these signs and all of the things that are important to us being heard. But coming up next to the stage, for those of you who want to stay for the remaining portion, we have Andrea Drew Steele from Emerge America, president and founder of Emerge America and co-founder of the first Emerge affiliate, Emerge California. Put your hands together for Andrea Drew Steele.
Where would we be without women? Are you ready to save our democracy? I want to give you a few things to think about as you march. As Mona said, thank you, Mona, for doing an extraordinary job. Let's all give a big round of applause for Mona and these incredible speakers we've had today. And the organizers of this fantastic march. They're women just like you all out there who decided to do something and organize a march. As Mona said, I founded Emerge America, and we focus on recruiting Democratic women, training them, and then providing a powerful network to them. Last year we had a 73% success rate, and this year we have 309 women running for office. And we can do this. We can do this. We have incredible Emerge alums like London Breed running for mayor. Let's all give a shout of applause for London, who needs support. She's running to become the first elected African American mayor in San Francisco. Now, as you're starting to march, I want you to think of one thing. We will never see different policies until we change the policy makers. That's right, until we build a reflective democracy that looks like our citizens. People in office, they're the ones who determine who gets to vote, who has legal sanctuary, who has access to health care, what the minimum wage is, what our environmental policies will be, and whether we keep our government working. That's why we need more women at the decision-making table. How many of you here today think it is okay that the United States is ranked 99th in terms of women's representation? How many of you here today think it is okay that women are over 50% of the population and yet we hold less than 25% of political positions in this country?
What is it going to take to change these statistics? It's going to take one thing, and that's more women running for office. That's right. We have 520,000 political offices in this country. That's right, school board, community college board, city council, district attorney. There are so many offices and so many ways to serve your country. So here is your call to action. Number 1, run. Consider yourselves recruited, each one of you women, young and old. Consider running for office. We need more women. We need more women of color, women from diverse backgrounds to step up to the plate. Put your name on a ballot. Do the bravest thing you can do for your country. Put yourself out there. How much do you love your country? Consider serving in this way. Number 2, recruit. Each one of you here today, men and women, consider yourselves powerful recruiters. It is up to you today to leave this march and recruit powerful women you know who have leadership qualities to run. You may be the recruiter of the next woman president, the first woman president of America. Your third task today is to support women running for office. Support them by volunteering. Imagine each one of you here today decided to volunteer just 1 hour to support a woman running for office. Imagine how powerful that would be. Consider supporting women by giving them money. Any amount helps. We learned that in the last election. And of course, your 4th job is to vote. We cannot elect great candidates if we don't vote. So there you go. Run, recruit, support, vote. I want to see you again next year, and I want to celebrate the election of more women than we have ever seen in the history of this country. And I want to plot the take back of our presidency. And I'm going to leave you with a quote from an extraordinary woman leader who is one of my sheroes, Shirley Chisholm. And what she said decades ago is as relevant today as it was when she says it. At present, our country needs women's idealism and determination, perhaps more in politics than anywhere else. Thank you and have fun marching!
Thank you so much, everyone, for being present. Thank you for coming to this wonderful rally. And the San Francisco Women's March has begun. I've been your host, Model Webb. Thank you so much for being here with me. It has been a pleasure and an honor to talk with you. It's been a pleasure and an honor to serve you. I finished my rape trial 1 year ago today. And it is just an amazing, amazing affirmation to see so many people out here who care about so many things that are so important to our communities. Yes to DACA, yes to voting rights, and yes to us getting our hands on political offices that matter. Please sign your petitions, please sign Prop S, please sign voter registrations, and please thank your volunteers as you go. Be safe. Thank you so much, San Francisco!
that wow.
My golf course, stales out of the ground. If people don't want to work, they won't give me that unemployment. You're saving the taxpayers money. No problem. Conquer this on a boat. Take them to that Cuba place. Leave them there. You know, that's where it all came from. They're invading all these colonies. Sorry, I feel like we're totally getting and, you know, we're going to have more military bases. That's what our tax money is for. Where's my buddy Tom?
Oh, sorry. That way's that way.
I love the sound.
Can you carry this?
I know. We went after the mimosas.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember.
Figure it out.
Funny doggy. Just remember it. Looks like a dog here. I guess that one. Oh, I know. He's 12. Honey, that shit's going slow. I love that. I love the quality of your quality. Boots and pants and boots and pants and boots and pants. I don't know these people.
Suffragette. From the 1920s, they earned the right to vote. It's all women. I like that sign.
have the money approved and allocated.
Yeah, they are running it out.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, and how does this have to do with that? Because they were trying to put all these other like provisions and agreements into the bill.
See the babies.
And they were like,
Careful.
At first they were like, maybe let's talk about it. And Trump was like, yes, talk about that. We want to talk about it.
I love the turnout.
Oh, it is? Your family. He's the dad is Princess Leia and the mom is Han Solo. Chewbacca is the kid.
Oh, sorry.
This was the sign we were trying to figure out how to say.
Oh, nice. You want to climb on top? Don't go too far. See, it's Princess Leia. you can plug into San Francisco Wi-Fi and watch it stream That's serious.
Oh yeah?
What if we knew it was Safari? Does Safari work?
Stay near that drum.
Look, I feel like an African.
I'll see you that side.
Hello. Yeah, where's everybody else?
Text you. I don't know if you guys crews are working.
I'm loud. I make my sisters proud. I'm strong. I'm loud. I make my sisters proud. I'm strong. I'm loud. I make my sisters proud. I'm strong. I'm loud. I make my sisters proud.
You have to tell me when you put them in my mouth.
The only thing I'm unsure.
Thank you.
Are they tech people? Are they? But they're not. They're just not not physical. Which is a sign.
I was like, better be ready for the
Yeah.
I was like,
It was too hot in your basement.
Is your sign?
I haven't. Like, how did you live in the window? See, you did that the dance under your house.
She made a sign, okay? Yeah, where's your sign?
Like, have you talked to any listeners?
Tycho? It's the Emeryville Tycho. your Wi-Fi working?
Yeah, I climbed up there. What?
Do you need to do your planets walking? Yeah, okay, go.
I think it's fun.
What's that say?
The Americans own it.
They barricaded back there against those
Charles Brown. That stands out.
glass everywhere. Get some sleep. He might not be alive. You want people dancing, see? That's really good.
true.
She's got a lot of lovers right now. She's like. Oh, yeah.
up on a Oh yeah, when we were stalking. Oh, Freddie Hello, yeah. Yeah, you've been doing a dark path. That was real weird. I had to see my
Indians. They feel us. Believe us.
Astro's here too.
Oh, where is she? We can meet up. Oh, she ran fast. Are you gonna go do a selfie with her?
No, she is like becoming it.
Here, you can say hi to Eva. Yeah, you can't bust over this Four Seasons.
Even if they remove what the president was. It's been the best ever.
loud, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Just me.
Where are they?
Bay Trail.
Oh, okay. All right.
Like human self first? Like is that supposed to be?
Are you trying to read these songs?
They're stuck in traffic? They're, oh, they went, did they know this was here today? So they just came here and they're just like, oh my god, the traffic is all stopped. Oh, okay. Yeah, today's not a day you want to drive to San Francisco. Oh, wow.
Around the place that we were watching the fireworks.
Okay.
Oh my God, 51% minority.
Nice.
You sent me a Snapchat of it. Was it like 4 girls? I don't think so.
Playing its own. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Do you like the assault weapons? Pardon me? What? Yeah.
flying resistance airlines. They all only want to crew in the air. Thank you for noticing. We're going to land this march on time, everybody. Keep on going off the runway. Thank you so much. Remember to check your baggage as political government mayors just to get that flight. Bye-bye.
Yeah, we'll just talk to him. Because he doesn't live too far from here. Yeah. And now I'm like, oh, now the baby's here.
Let me get some from behind. I don't know what you have.